Welcome to another towing video. This one is specifically about anti-sway and weight distribution hitches. So I have this half-ton truck. It is a 2017 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with the 5.7 Hemi automatic transmission, two-wheel drive, 321 gears, basic tow package, no trailer brakes though. And this is a 25-foot Micro-Lite that has a dry weight of about 5,300 pounds. That's, obviously dry weight is not counting battery, propane, and all the other stuff we put into it. I weighed it one time, and the total weight of this truck and trailer is going to be somewhere around 12,500 to 13,000 pounds roughly. And I want to do this video on the Equal-i-zer weight distribution hitch and anti-sway control. Now, unfortunately, I've already had it for over a year, so I can't do an unboxing. I can't do an install because if you see, I already have brackets installed on there. I already have my hitch set up. What we're going to start out with first, I'm going to give you a little quick POV of what it takes to hitch it up, because it's really not that much. It's pretty dang easy. And then I'll kind of just talk about what you have to do to install it, which there's really not much. And then I'm going to see if I can get some good shots of the anti-sway bar in action on the road. And then at the same time, I'm going to give you my thoughts, because I was on a trip without any type of hitch. And let me tell you, it was one of my worst drives ever. And I'm just going to tell you right now, this hitch is amazing. And I am not sponsored anyway. I bought this hitch. It was the first thing I did. I bought it after I got back after my white knuckle trip, which I'll talk about later. There's the hitch in there, and I got the bars in there. So let me strap on my GoPro on my head, and let's get hitched up. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to pull the hitch parts out and get on the truck. So I got my gloves on because this is a little messy, a little greasy. So we have all of our pins, and you'll see all this stuff in just a little bit. And I do need a better spot to hold this thing, but this is the hitch, very, very heavy. Just throw that in there, hold it in there for a moment. Then we have all our pins, which I will just throw right here for now. And then my bars are just down here, and yes, I do keep them in the box like that. So let's get this thing in here first. After it's worn down, you kind of get a good line to see where it goes in. Okay, now with that in, what I like to do, I like to go ahead, put the bars in right away. Because with these bars, they kind of make like a V. And so it kind of helps guide you when you're backing up. Now the main thing to remember, keep these arms swung out so that they're outside of these. Okay, and let's not forget our pins to hold these bars in. I like to put the pins in from inside out. I don't know why. I think because as these swing in, I don't want this catching in here. I don't think it matters. I think most people do it the other way, but again, I don't think it matters. So now what I want to do really quick before I actually pull it back, hitch it all up, I like to lube it all up. So I get Equal-i-zer lube. So, and again, I'm going to have links to all this stuff in the description below. So this is the Equal-i-zer hitch. I got it with the hitch and a ball. And then these are levers, comes with the system. And then I bought these pads right here. These quiet things down, so instead of the metal bar riding on the metal, it rides on this pad. And if you have this everything set up right, these do last. I've had these for over a year and they're not smashed or anything. And then I have Equal-i-zer lube, which I'll get right now. Okay, so this is the Equal-i-zer sway control hitch high performance lubricant. I always put a glove on for this part of it. And sometimes after this stuff wears out, you will hear a little bit of squeaking, especially when you're like backing up. But once you put this stuff on, I'm telling you, no squeaks at all. And then what I like to do, get some on your ball. Now I like to put some right here, down underneath here. Pretty much these arms get sandwiched in, so you can kind of see where they ride. So I like to lube all around there. And then also I just like to throw a little bit right there. And just kind of spread it around, just like that. And I'm telling you, this stuff, huge difference, removes all squeaks. Let me go ahead and back the truck up to line it up with hitch, and then we'll finish it up. All right, so now I got the truck pretty much backed up right in position. First thing you want to do, lower your trailer onto your hitch ball. And then you want it all the way to where you can lock it in place. Okay, now normally you don't have to take it all the way down, but I'm gonna do it in this case just for one specific reason. So right now the weight is completely off the jack and the weight distribution hitch isn't on, and I want to do this just really quick just to show you how much this truck squats. So you can see stock suspension actually isn't too bad. It's, like I said, squatted a little bit here, so you can see we're about almost 4 fingers right there, and here we're my whole hand. So now I showed you that. Now let me just plug this electrical in really quick, that way the battery can keep charging. All right, so with that locked down, everything like this, obviously you can't get on here. They do sell a little lever to bring it up, but that's way too much. So now what you want to do, raise the jack up, okay, now here you're basically raising it up to where you're actually lifting up on the truck, because you can see it's lifting up quite a bit. So now that gives us to where you can just swing those in, grab your little L pins, boom, just like that. The other side, so that one's a little bit tighter on this side, and boom, just like that. Now that's all hooked up. And again, they sell this little like hook lever thing to help bring it up, but usually if you got it set up right, you don't need it. Now with those in place, all you gotta do, lower it back down. And now once you lower it, these bars are gonna pick up some of that weight. And there you go, it's all hooked up. Pull this out, see it's all on the truck. And you can see the truck is definitely a lot more level right now. So before we got 3, we had a force 4. Now it's like almost your whole hand. And this time we can still kind of get our hand in, but not as much. Now I will say right now, I do need to make a little bit more of an adjustment. When you first do the install, you're supposed to basically measure the height up to the bottom of your fender well in the front without being loaded. Then you want to measure it what it is when it's loaded with no hitch at all. So you get the measurement stock, measurement with it loaded, and then when you got the weight distribution hitch, you want it somewhere between the loaded height and the stock height. You don't want it to the front to go below your stock height, because then that means you're actually raising the rear up with the trailer. You don't want that. So I think ideally you want to be about halfway between there. So as you can see, I'm definitely in the range, but I can use a little adjustment, and that's where this comes into play when you install it, where you adjust these brackets up or down, and then also the hitch ball and where that goes up or down. Of course, a lot of RV shops will do the install for you. I did this myself. When you do the install, you want to make sure you're on level ground, but also if you have to install your hitch ball, and if you're installing these right here, I will say this is where you may need a shop's help, because these nuts here require a lot of torque. So that would be one of the other reasons, you know, something good to have a shop to do it. Or you can always just get all the adjustments, install it yourself, and then just take that to a shop and see what they charge you to just torque it down for you really quick. So with that, let me just go ahead, finish hitching up here. Oh, meant to run that under the bar. By the way, I highly recommend one of these type of breakaway cables. In fact, I'll have a link to this one I bought here as well. So much better than the other one. And there you go. And then obviously you want to make sure everything's good. These pins are in, that's in, this is in, that's hooked up, electrical hooked up. So we're all good to go. So with that, I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna try to get some good footage. I'm gonna see, since I have a couple GoPro suction cup, I'm gonna see if I can mount one up here somewhere and see if I can see what it looks like as we're on the road. With that said, I need to go get this thing packed up to get on our trip tomorrow. I'll see you on the road. All right, fast forward a little bit. At this point, we're 1 week into the trip. We spent several days at the Badlands White River KOA, and at this point now we're going west to our next destination. It's the Black Hills of South Dakota, specifically Rafter J Bar Ranch over in Hill City. Now it's only about a 2-hour drive, spanning a little over 100 miles. But this trip does get a little bit interesting. I'll get back to that in a second. Now, while we're watching this Equal-i-zer hitch in action, I'm going to talk about what I think about it, along getting back to that white knuckle trip that I talked about when we first started out this video. But I kind of want to talk about trailer sway, what causes it, and specifically get to this road we're about to go on. Because when it comes to trailer sway, there's a few different things that cause it. Obviously, weight distribution plays a big factor. And even though this hitch does give a big assist in that department, you still want to make sure you properly load your trailer for other reasons. axles plus payload. Now that's something you have control over. Now what you don't have control over, and the first thing that comes to mind when you think trailer sway, is high winds. Now, unfortunately, or I guess kind of fortunately, I didn't really encounter any horribly high winds on this trip, but as I'll get to in my story later, I've definitely experienced high winds before. Now, another thing that causes trailer sway is taking bumps on the road. Now, if you've ever seen that video with the demonstration of trailer and trailer sway, they got a car and a trailer on a little miniature model on the treadmill and they bump it. As you hit bumps and things kind of move, it can kick off some sway. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever find yourself making a similar trip in South Dakota, highly recommend skipping Highway 44 and making your way to I-90 instead. So if you're going west through the Badlands, take that main interstate on the north side. Don't take that road that's on the south side of the Badlands, because taking the Interstate 90 is only going to add about 10 minutes of this trip. And honestly, looking back, I wish I did that, knowing what I know now. But we did get some cool footage. And this is why right here, check this out. Yeah, that's right. That's a permanent road sign that literally says rough road next 5 miles. That's how bad this road is. They actually put up not a temporary sign, a permanent sign, and then threw extra red flags on top of that. So on the positive side, it gives us a little bit to watch here on this hitch. And while watching this, by the way, this video is at this point sped up 2 times. It's easier to see the hitch actually working with the video sped up, so you can see kind of the movements of all the parts of it a little bit easier. So keep that in mind, it's 2 times the speed right now. Now also keep in mind, my GoPro has video stabilization in it, so what you're seeing right now is nowhere near as bad as it really is. Another positive, it did keep my speeds in check, because I can't remember exactly how fast I was going, but it was definitely well below the speed limit, because it was too rough to be driving that fast. And as we're watching the trailer kind of bounce around here, in all the miles driven, towing my RV up to Moab, Florida, all around Texas, Arkansas, everywhere, I've never ever had issues of stuff getting tossed around inside the RV. Obviously, we keep everything secure every single time, no matter how short the drive is. When we go back in the RV, everything's been where we set it. Nothing's tossed around. That was not the case here. Let's just say when we got to Rafter J-Bar Ranch, man, we were in for a surprise when we entered our RV. Cabinet doors were flung open, stuff was everywhere. The fridge door even somehow managed to come open. And in it, we had a bottle of wine, and that bottle of wine flew out the fridge with such force that it actually smashed on the floor. Now, luckily, we had a pillow on the floor that was kind of right by it, and that pillow actually absorbed pretty much the majority of the wine. So we just had a little bit of mess on the laminate flooring, and then a small little stain that managed to get on the carpet that's under the dinette. But that tells you how rough this road was. I've never experienced that, and since then, I've never experienced anything like that before again. Hopefully by now you get the point of how rough this road is. But even so, I had no sway, like zero sway. At no point did my RV ever feel like it was getting out of control. Now, while we're watching this, let's get back to that white knuckle trip that I was talking about earlier. When I first got this RV, I didn't have any kind of hitch. I knew I was going to get one, but since I didn't have any long distance trips planned, I wasn't really worried about it. And I wanted to research the hitches first. Now, the RV dealer, they actually recommended this Equal-i-zer hitch. Again, I want to do my own research and see what I decide, what I think is best, what I want to get. Here we are, brand new RV. We're a month into it. We're only doing very close local trips to kind of learn the RV life, see how it works. And then we decide last moment, for various reasons, to make a trip all the way to Hot Springs, Arkansas. And Hot Springs from north to Dallas is just under 300 miles, but at that point it would be our furthest trip in it with this RV, and I didn't want to take that long of a trip without a hitch. But our short little trips, everything seemed fine, so I thought, it would be okay. But wow, was I wrong. I'd say about an hour into the drive, we're heading east on I-30 through northeastern Texas, and the wind just started to pick up. Most of the rest of the drive, I was pretty much battling steady 23, 25 mile per hour crosswinds. And man, my trailer, it was just like, it wanted to sway so bad, and it took everything in me to keep it under control. I was going slow. I was going super slow. So if you watch my other video, I wasn't doing no 70. I was going very slow. At no point did it feel where I was like out of control or couldn't control it, but it was a lot of work to make sure that it stayed that way. So we finished out the drive, and what should have been less than a 5-hour drive turned into an almost 7-hour drive. And it was so bad that while we were at the Hot Springs, it was raining one day, and we decided to drive out to Little Rock to a Camping World, see if maybe they had a hitch. And at that point I decided I wanted this Equal-i-zer hitch. I did all my research. I knew this was the one I wanted, but Camping World, they did not have any in stock. So I had to drive back from Arkansas without this Equal-i-zer hitch. Luckily the winds weren't as bad. It was a little bit easier of a drive, so all was good. But as soon as we got back home, the very first thing I did, I went straight on Amazon and I bought this Equal-i-zer hitch, and the link for it is going to be in the description below for the exact one that I got. All right, so now the white knuckle trip is out of the way. I've got this new hitch. Now it's time to put it on and test it out. And boy, did we get to test it out. Because my very first trip after I got this hitch, another short trip from Dallas to Austin, that Friday, I'll never forget it. I woke up and I looked at the weather reports, and the winds were insane. They were gusts up to over 40 miles per hour at times. I mean, it was way worse than the wind that I got on that Hot Springs trip. But I was like, all right, well, this is gonna be the best first test for this Equal-i-zer hitch. So that morning, I installed that hitch, and as soon as I started getting on the road, immediate difference. I mean, right away. My truck and RV just felt a lot more solid, kind of almost like they were a part of each other. Best demonstration, at about a mile from where we keep RV, from a mile from here, there's this intersection that has a very pronounced crown, where it's got them kind of dips that wear out over time with the weight of trucks and tires and all that. Even if you're not towing, you're bouncing up and down. Now you add in your 2 axles of your vehicle plus the axle of the trailer way behind you, and you've got all sorts of this going on. It's insane. And without any hitch, I remember the very first time we went over that intersection, there was so much like push and tug between the trailer and the truck that we were just like doing this in the truck, and me and wife looked at each other, we're like, if towing an RV is going to be like this, I don't think we can do this. Let's get back to the stand, install the hitch. We go over that same road, all that push and tug and pull pretty much gone. I kind of describe it like, whereas before we had the truck and the trailer and they were kind of fighting against each other, this Equal-i-zer hitch kind of made it like, it felt like we were just one solid unit. Like the truck and the RV was in unison together. And it just, when you feel it, you know what I mean. So now at this point in trip, man, I'm feeling confident. I'm like, all right, so far so great, not just good. So we get out onto the freeway, instantly feel these winds, and wow, what a difference compared to that Hot Springs trip. I felt so much, I mean, I always felt in control, but I felt like it took less effort to stay in control. It was just easy. You could tell there were times when the trailer wanted to sway, but then something kind of straightened it out, like stopped it before it started getting out of hand. And even with all these high winds, at no point was I white knuckling. I mean, you still feel the push of the wind, just like if you're in your vehicle not towing on a windy day, you feel it. You feel the wind trying to push you over in a lane or move you over. So a hitch isn't going to remove that. And look at this thing, it's still a big gigantic wind sail. So wind pushing on it is still going to try and move you around, but the sway part, that part, gone. And that trip right there, the very first day, it wasn't like I even had to struggle to think like, is this hitch worth it? It was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had this at day one. I highly recommend it to anyone, and anyone that ever asks me about towing with a half-ton truck, I tell them I have this hitch and you definitely want one. I maybe can get away without it if you have like a 3/4 ton, 1 ton, and you're way under your weight limits and all that, which we're still under all our limits. We're still, you know, we're under the payload capacity, we're under the towing capacity, everything is within limits. This Equal-i-zer hitch became one of those few products throughout my life that works so well. I don't just like recommend it, like, yeah, I know this hitch is good. I'm like, you need to get this hitch. If I were to do this again, I would get this hitch on day one. Now the downside with getting on day one, had I had this hitch day one, I would not have known how much it really helped, because I just would have had that feeling all the time, and I wouldn't know, is this normal, is this from the hitch, what's what? But because I had that bad trip, I knew how much of a difference it makes. And I almost want to suggest people do that, but don't. Stay safe. I don't want nobody like taking risks just to see the difference. So time to wrap up this video. Again, hope you got some good information about this. If you're on the fence about the Equal-i-zer hitch, hopefully you're not now. And it's obviously not the cheapest hitch, but it's not the most expensive. I'll link to the exact same hitch that I got. And I got the hitch that came with the ball already attached, because they sell it without the ball and a couple different options. So yeah, so with that, again, hope you got some info out of it. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helped you. Whenever I'm asked about what it's like towing this 25-foot RV with this half-ton Ram, I say it handles it no problem. Everything's great. But this hitch, is what makes it great and makes it handle it no problem. So thanks for watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and see you at the RV park.